All right, cool. Hello, check, yeah. Can everyone hear me in the back okay? All right, cool. Hope everybody's stocked up on coffee, because I always seem to pick up the straw on like the session right after lunch. So I need to load up on some coffee myself to beat the food coma. All right, so I'll be talking about like building world-class product marketing teams from scratch, because that's kind of what I did last about 2.5, 3 years, and it's pretty much my most recent experience. Again, a quick disclaimer, this is all my personal opinion and my experience. None of this is reflected by my past employers or my current employer, Digital Asset. So this is a quick background about myself. I'm currently the global head of product marketing at Digital Asset. I literally took up this role 3 weeks ago, right? A month ago, I was actually sitting in Hyderabad. And 3 months ago, I did not have any clue that I was going to be here, standing in stage, or even in New York for that matter. So I spent pretty much the last 2 decades at MathWorks. I don't know if many people know MathWorks. It's an engineering software company. So my background is engineering. And I started at MathWorks, many moons ago. But I have what you can say, sort of an inclination towards working very closely with customers. I love technology. I'm very interested and excited about technology, but I don't want to be sitting in front of a computer like all day long, right? So that kind of got me into sales engineering role. So that was my first exposure to kind of talking to people about technology, right? So I did that for a few years, and then I moved into a product marketing role. I didn't really know what product marketing was, but one of my mentors actually gave the definition that you have an opportunity to drive the strategic direction of the products. So I wanted to do something more than being transactional, so I kind of moved into a product marketing role. So I did that for a few years. I got bored. Then I said, like, okay, that is still working too closely with engineering teams, but I wanted to be much closer to markets. So at MathWorks, we have something called Industry Marketing Group as well. So this is more like, in fact, the CRO or the VP of Sales used to call us like the special forces of sales. We go where the money is tomorrow. We don't go where the money is today. So we're basically trying to break new ground. Again, that requires a lot of, because it's an engineering product company, so you really need to understand the markets and the products and technology. So I did that for a few years, and I got bored. And then I got an opportunity to actually grow a product marketing team in India. MathWorks was investing very heavily in engineering resources for many years now, actually in Bangalore and Hyderabad. And we build products, or they build products. I keep saying we, and I'm confused. Products for the world, all sorts of different products, right? Like you're talking about software-defined radio, technology that drives self-driving cars, fighter planes, and all sorts of stuff. So it's a pretty deep technical stack with a wide range of markets. How do you build a product marketing group that can support new products that are coming out into the market literally every 3 to 6 months? Some of them are successful, some of them fail, but the train keeps rolling, right? So, and that's kind of what I did in the last 2.5 years. And when I got an opportunity to speak here, I thought, okay, well, why not just talk about that? So that's what I'm going to talk in the next few slides. So what is this session about, right? It's really about how do you successfully launch products and solutions. There's a lot of really cool sessions that talks about that, but how do you do it repeatedly and scale it, especially with people, training people? So that's what my focus is going to be. And who is it for? If you're a leader in your own organization trying to grow PMMs, locally or offshore, I think this might be useful for you. If you're mentoring others, again, it's going to be useful to you. Or if you're just simply trying to kind of become a better product marketing person, that'll also be useful to you, because when we are talking about training teams, think of yourself actually has a lot of little people inside you doing a lot of different things. So some of those little people will be expert at doing what they're doing. Some of these other little people are going to be pretty newbies, right? So in some sense, you have to think of yourself not as a single entity, but a complex entity. And the same thing applies to other people. When you're trying to manage people, they're a complex mix. So you got to find what works, what doesn't. And I think the previous session, the speaker did a fantastic job of talking about how do you grow your own career, right? So a lot of those principles will apply here as well. One of the first things when you start hiring people is people ask, like, what the hell is product marketing, right? it can be a confusing term. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But for me, the definition is pretty straightforward. It really encompasses the value chain from early ideation of a product, any product, technical or non-technical, and launching it successfully into your desired market and driving the demand and revenue growth. Now, there's going to be a lot of people doing this whole value chain. It's not just product marketing. But as a product marketer, you're going to actually bridge the product development, ideation side, as well as the delivery side and the demand growth side. So there's going to be pieces on both sides that you'll have to deal with. So who are the people and teams that are involved in this flow? So you got the engineering folks or product development folks. You got product managers who work very closely with the engineering team to figure out what the roadmap should be. You have the product marketers, that's us, right? And the marketing programs and the execution folks. And then finally, you have the sales and the revenue teams. So I find this sort of a picture very helpful to explain to people what that flow should look like. Now, multiple people might be doing the same thing, and that's okay. Every organization might have a slightly different view of this flow, but again, that's okay. But I think setting that big picture vision is important when you're trying to hire people. So the work that I did can be sort of boiled down into 4 steps. Again, this is just my perspective. Again, this is not like there's no right or wrong answers here. But these are kind of the things that I found as a mental model that helped me hire and scale people, right? You want to hire the right people. You want to find the right onboarding and through the orientation approach. Then you want to mentor and grow those folks as part of your team. And one of the most important things is you want to grow mentors in your team because you don't want to be doing all the hard work yourself. One of my mentors early on in my career actually said, if you really want to do a good job of what you're doing, it's like you got to work to put yourself out of business, right? So if you think about it that way, do your work so good that when you're not there, nobody notices you're not there. Things are just going smoothly, and then you have done your job well. If you really set the bar high, you will never get there, but you're going to get there sufficiently close that you're going to make a big difference. So we'll go through some of these pieces, and if you have any questions, of course, I think you can send it through the apps. All right, hiring. Finding the right mix of skills and aptitude. This is one of the hardest challenges of anywhere, but especially back in India. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details of why I found that challenging because the market is challenging, the people's expectations are very different. So you got to look for a bunch of different criteria, especially for product marketing. And because we were in a very technical realm, you needed to start with the technical foundations. You cannot just go hire someone and teach them engineering, right? It's really difficult. It's possible. In fact, some of the guys that I've worked with in my past, like some of the sales reps, in fact, they're actually English majors, but they've done their work so many years so well that you wouldn't even know that they're actually non-technical people. So again, you can find exceptions to the rule, but it's usually it's an exception. Communication skills are very important. Again, you can hire people without communication skills and train them, but it's easier if they come with a certain baseline. I'm a big fan of the belief that you can teach pretty much anybody anything, right, for the most part. You don't want to discount it because it's easy for us to judge people that way, but you got to find that balance. Content creation and delivery is very important for product marketing. So if people have written blogs, they've created some videos. In fact, some of the best guys that I've hired in my previous role were guys or gals who ended up creating certain videos or blogs on their own. Like they never really were told to do that, but they just did that, right? So those folks are actually, they're better suited. Project management, most people don't necessarily come to the table with good project management skills. You gotta almost have to teach them. And I think that's one thing you don't have to, like I compromised on that. Like maybe I'm not looking for perfect project management skills. We can make up for that in different ways. Business and strategy, that's an interesting one because at some point in your product marketing career, you're gonna have to start asking, is your organization heading in the right direction? What can I do to change that direction? You gotta have that mindset. You can't just be task oriented. You can't be just like, it can't just be a laundry list of activities that you're checking off the box. Is it the right direction? Is it the right strategy? How often is your executive team meeting to discuss that strategy? If you're not, should you guys be meeting? Can you put some processes in place? Of course, you're not going to expect that from a junior person, but somebody who's asking the right questions, they are probably a good candidate to eventually become a product marketing. So the second box is onboarding and coaching. Again, there are a lot of projects you can start with. Start with something small and tangible, right? Like, is it creating a white paper or a slip sheet or maybe a short video and things of that nature. And that gives them enough motivation to get going. And also it's motivating and educating. Like, what is the big picture? So one of the biggest challenges that I ran into while I was trying to hire for product marketing people is trying to explain what product marketing, where would they fit in, what's their career progression going to look like. I'm sure many of you might have asked this question in your own first 1 or 2 years. Like, hey, where is this going? In fact, a couple of the guys that were hired before I moved over there were hired by the engineering team to create videos, like put it on YouTube to promote it, right? So they did that for about 6 months, and then after I moved over there, they were asking me, am I going to be doing these videos for the next 5 years? So they were really depressed. I mean, they were really scared, actually. Like, what exactly am I doing as a product marketing guy? So I had to really set that vision, and I'll actually explain to you how I set that vision. But that vision setting is very important, because at that point, if they determine that, okay, this is really not for me, it's okay. Cut your losses. Find the people who are interested in doing that, right? But in fact, everybody stuck around, and they're doing quite well right now. And it's important for them to see what their career would look like in the next 2 to 5 years. So that's again another important point. Coaching. This is going to keep coming up over and over again. Knowing when to tell, knowing when to support, knowing when to let your people go. That's an interesting and important skill. Nobody's going to teach you that. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. You will eventually. The big picture part, I'm not going to go through this whole slide, but I think some people might have seen it. We use Pragmatic Marketing Framework. I personally don't use all the boxes, but it is actually a good model, because on the left side you have strategic, on the right side you have tactical. On the top you have typically markets and strategy, bottom you have, or products, and the bottom you have, I think I'm reversed it. So one of those, like products and markets go on the top and bottom, right? So it's a mental model, it's an operational model, right? If you tell people that, okay, you're going to do a win-loss analysis, where does it fit in? Okay, so now you're going to create some sales enablement materials. Where does that fit in? So you can actually map out exactly all the activities and the deliverables that one might be working on and put it in one of these boxes. But I do set the expectation that as a product marketer, you're never going to be a fantastic, excellent, top-of-the-line product marketer until you're doing this for about 3 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years. Like, don't keep that expectation, right? Like, you got to do this for like a good 4 to 5 years before you are a really good product marketer. So it's okay to kind of focus on some of these bubbles 1 year, another bubble, another year. So I think you got to have that mental plan. Talking about coaching and mentoring, I think, I don't know if many people have heard of this concept called situational leadership. This is another framework. It's really useful. It's helped me a lot. But it basically goes like this, right? On the bottom x-axis, you have a directive behavior. How much are you directing the person? And then you have a supportive behavior, which is on the y-axis. So what that really means is that when you hire someone new or fresh, even if it's an experienced person on the technology side of things, but let's say they're new to product marketing, so you're going to have to provide a lot more guidance initially, both in terms of telling them what to do and how to do precisely, right? That's D1. And then you move to telling them what to do, but you start coaching them on how to do. So you give them a little bit of an leeway. And that moves to coaching them on what to do and how to do. So you're, again, backing off a little bit more. And once they get really good at it, you start delegating. And you support as needed. Make sure that the hurdles that they're going to face in an organizational way, you remove those hurdles. You basically try to be out of their way, get their hurdles out of the way. So, and again, when to use what, it really depends on your people, your own situation, and in projects as well. Some people might be good at delegating for certain activities, but certain other parts of their product marketing career activities, they're going to need a lot of coaching. So it can be a mix of both. And the other thing I found very helpful is setting that vision, right? And as part of that vision setting, you got a plan. It's very easy to come up with a laundry list of activities and go tell people what to do. Hey, we're going to create all these sales sheets. We're going to create this presentation. We're going to create the sales enablement material, and so on and so forth. But if they actually have a more strategic plan of exactly what their first 1 to 2 years is going to look like, they're going to be in a much better shape. And this will take a while, especially if they're very junior. But I pushed really hard on some of the junior folks to, like the previous presenter said, if you are the CEO of your business unit, everything depends on you deciding what activities should be done to make your business grow. What would that be? Challenge people to think along those lines, right? Challenge yourself to think along those lines, because you are going to be the CEO of your own product area. So that's what strategic planning is. Again, the balance between planning and execution, not necessarily coming with a laundry list of projects. Because I think one of the things that I've seen is that otherwise you'll be on a constant firefighting mode. It's like, oh, we're just going to hit the deadlines. We're going to hit the deadline. It gives you that perception that you're busy, and meaning that you're doing something interesting and useful. But are you really doing something useful? That depends on the metrics that you're trying to measure. Most of the metrics in marketing is really vague, right? I mean, most of us know that. So it's a hard problem. Prioritization is very important, figuring out, and once you have that list of the plan, even if that plan is for 3 people and you have just 1 person, now you can make the decision, given 1 person, which of these activities on this plan should I actually focus on? And if someone else comes and tells you, hey, why didn't you do X, Y, Z? You can clearly say, we just don't have enough people, right? You go find more people, or we're going to have to pick what we're going to have to do. The other thing, I think it's an important point, is once we did the plan, we loaded the plan up in Jira. In our case, it was just a Jira work management. We were just exploring different options. So the plan is loaded up. And again, we're not a stickler for looking at exactly how the progress is every few weeks or anything like that. But it's a guideline. It's a guiding post for the team, the junior teams especially. So that really helped them. So this is my last slide. I think I'm pretty much done after this. So there are a whole bunch of considerations that you want to think about, especially cultural or otherwise. Like, you got to own your team's failure, and you got to credit all the successes to your team. So you want the team to really feel like you got their back, right? Otherwise, they're not going to give it all. And you also got to find the balance, when to really support them, when to put pressure. Again, this all sounds like apple pie and motherhood, but it is something that you gotta really apply. Understanding the local culture, I could probably give a whole talk on just that, like a next 1 hour, right? Because there's so many different instances that has happened where, I'm originally from India. I grew up in India. I did my undergrad in India. I moved over here for my master's, spent pretty much all my working career over here, and then I went back to India to lead a team there. It was just day and night difference. So one of the things is that there's a lot of reverence to authority back there, in Asia in general, I would say. And you can actually find some interesting case studies, especially from the 80s and 90s, how a senior person would be making a mistake, but the junior person knows that the mistake is being made, but they won't speak up. And it can lead to disastrous results, especially in an airline industry. And there are, again, some case studies there. So one of the first things that I did was told people to use me by my first name, and call me by my first name. So that was very critical, and I had to literally drill that into people's head, because I wanted to be seen as approachable. If something is not right, something is wrong, you got to feel comfortable coming and talking about it. I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot of other examples I can go into. So it's important to understand the local culture and subtleties. And that's true even in States, because I think, if you look around the room, we're all from a lot of different places. And the subtleties of the culture actually matters more, even in a sort of a melting pot like where we are today. The last but the most important thing, I think, is you got to be patient. There was one guy in my team whose communication skills was not great, and I told him, dude, your communication skills is not good, but I'll be happy to help you. You got it, but you got it, before you send any email out, send it to me. I will review it. If you need to know how to speak to a particular person, send me a script or set up 20 minutes, I will help you. And anytime he reached out to me, I made sure I was there. And I think that made a difference. So you got to be honest, but at the same time, you got to be patient. With yourself as well, by the way, because that's more important. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Arvind. Stay up there for a bit. We'll do some Q&A. I love the models you showed. What was the model like developed to undeveloped to developed? Do you remember the slide I'm talking about? I'll connect afterward. Okay. I want to get that one. Situation.
Oh, the situational leadership?
Maybe that one, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it that's called situational leadership?
Yeah. It's a well-established model.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump into some Q&A. Ooh, that's a tough one. When do you know it's time to let someone go?
It sounds like a relationship question.
Take it as you want.
I think you will know. You don't want to waste their time and your time. And sometimes, it's easy to rip the Band-Aid off as fast as you can. But at the same time, you don't want to rip it off too fast, right? You want to give them the chance. Like the person whose communication skills was lacking. That guy was like top-notch when it comes to project management. I used to tell him just one thing, and he got it done. So the quality of the results that was produced were really top-notch. So I had to kind of take that chance. Look, there's a lot of things he's doing really well. I can completely keep him on stuff and then let him, grow over time on the communication side of things. So that was a call. It's really, it's a hard question. It's almost like over a beer discussion.
Yeah.
All right. I know we're running short on time. So.
All right. How about how do you allocate time for strategic planning, especially at a high growth startup?
I'm facing that right now. People are like, go, 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 go. I'm like, where? Right? Like, I can't go anywhere if I don't know where I'm going. So you got to put your foot down. It's okay. Come up with something. Like, spend 30 minutes coming up with a plan. It's a plan. It's at least not having any plan is inexcusable in my opinion. It can be a plan that can evolve, that can be fine-tuned, that can be converged upon. It can be completely wrong, but you will be better in 3 months from now, 6 months from now with that plan.
Great. All right, I think I know your answer to this one, but I want to hear you answer it. Do you think leaders without a natural aptitude for managing people can develop the skills you mentioned? Can people become a leader?
You should have seen me like 7 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. My managers would shiver at the prospect of putting anybody under me, right? Literally. No, in fact, they held that off for a long time, and I was happy with it. So you gotta, sometimes you're forced to manage people because you just have to handle folks, but sometimes when you're ready. When you feel like there's a lot of things that you have learned. And by the way, management is it's more mentoring, I would say, mentoring and coaching. In fact, most of product marketing is about influence, it's influencing, managing through influence rather. There is no authority. In fact, if you're trying to manage through authority, you just already failed, in my opinion. You shouldn't rely on a title, is my point. So which means that you can grow your coaching and mentoring skills anytime.
So did you research and learn how to manage yourself, or did you learn through experience? Like, did you find articles in these models and apply them, or did you learn through experience?
I think it's a bit of both, yeah. I think there's a lot of good articles on leadership. HBR has it. If you go to business school, I went to B school for a bit. I say for a bit because I didn't really finish it, because after a while I found it boring. It's one of those things where there are really useful aids that you can certainly pick up on, but then ultimately you got to apply it. But again, the previous presenter actually talked about it. Find a good mentor. You really want a mentor, and a mentor is someone. If you look up to somebody in your organization, lunch conversation, a coffee chat, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, it doesn't matter. So start reaching out to people, and then just talking to them, you'll pick up imitation, right? I mean, you imitate your people who inspires you. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, what about the top here? My company recently went global. What are some of the ways you recommend learning and understanding different cultures?
Yeah, that's a whole another conversation too, right? Because there are a lot of organizations out there that can help, help organizations go global, because you really need to understand the the big global picture. But one of the mistakes a lot of the companies make is they go global because of price disparities. So that shouldn't be the only driving considerations. If that's your driving considerations, again, it's a different ballgame. But if you're looking to grow local talent, I think you really got to invest the time and resources. You got to send people over. You got to learn. You got to understand that local picture.
So what about, you mentioned offshoring a team. So like being, say, in America, building a product marketing team in India.
Yeah.
What are the challenges? What are the benefits of that, for one? And then what are the challenges?
So there are plenty of benefits, right? I mean, the very talented pool workforce in India and a lot of other countries in Asia as well. The challenge is, of course, that it's a completely different business environment, globally speaking. So outsourcing is one thing, offshoring is a different thing. I think I want to clarify that. So outsourcing is just giving off to some other company. Offshoring is basically you're establishing your own presence, at which point it's two different strategies.
Yeah, I think that's an important clarifier, yeah. Great. I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Arvind. Everyone give him a hand.
Thank you.